Okay.
Nice one.
See you later.
Cheers now.
Ta-ra.
It was overnight, no warning whatsoever. It was just, you shut down and that's it. Don't use it, don't advertise our PayPal logo, don't do anything. And we're keeping your money, by the way.
Dave Bamlett owns a gun shop in Darlington, County Durham. Viewers might remember him from our story in 2020 about lockdowns and the gun trade, where he introduced a regular visitor, Bob the pigeon. Sadly, Bob hasn't been back since the lockdowns.
We had Bob who visited us every day for a nice handful of corn. He wasn't loyal during lockdown, and while the shutters were closed, he's went on to pastures new. But we've got a tribute to Bob, which is our little plastic decoy hung from the ceiling.
Bob is the least of Dave's problems, which for the past couple of years have been finding payment systems and banks that will deal with his business. Increasingly, gun shops and shooting ranges are finding themselves dumped without notice by companies like SumUp, often only finding out when payments don't go through.
SumUp, Square, I can't remember, there'd be a big list of everything that you can think of basically. We've tried them all. Payzone, iZettle, that was another one. We actually got their little card machine, read the terms and conditions, and amongst pornography, gambling and gun dealers are one of the ones that's not allowed. So that was that one sent back. Elevon wanted to know if we had weapons of mass destruction, cluster bombs and chemical weapons amongst one of the questions that they asked. We were running fine with PayPal for years, and then overnight we got an email to say we now shut down. So we're not allowed to use PayPal, not allowed to have it on the website, anything. So that was that. And they were keeping £1,200 of our money as well for 6 months or 180 days, and then they would review it at the end to see if we were worth getting it back, which we did eventually in any case. Doing what we do, I automatically opened a second PayPal address and carried on. And that got shut down within 2 days, along with my personal account, Rachel's personal account, and anything that was logged onto our Wi-Fi at home at the time was also shut down if it had anything to do with PayPal.
With the Information Commission and the Data Protection Act 2018, Article 14 specifically prohibits the use of geolocation services, except if you've got a reason to do it, which all banks would be easily able to turn around and say, we have a reason to do this. And I think it's because they're adding a value-added service. But what they also need to do is to say very explicitly in their terms and conditions, this is what they're doing and this is what you're opting into. And so technically they're complying with the law. And most banks and financial institutions want to try and do some sort of geolocation stuff. I get quite a lot of it, even though I'm using a virtual private network. But I think most field sports organizations and businesses probably should be using VPNs. They do help you in this regard.
Dave has heard of people being dumped by PayPal while it still held tens of thousands of pounds of their money.
We did find a loophole for anyone else that gets trapped into this. You can't withdraw the money, you can't close your account, you can't do anything, but you can give refunds. So what we did, we contacted all our customers and said, we're going to refund you. So we got quite a bit of money back like that. It's just an uphill struggle all the time of who to deal with and why it's such a restricted business, because we're one of the most vetted people out there, and so are the people that walk through the door.
It is a barrier for small organizations. And there is this really grey area. I mean, you can raise money on PayPal and Patreon and various other things that goes directly into into a personal bank account. I do think the government and regulators need to have a closer look at this, because it's very easy to be, I don't know, a violent sort of extremist group, or even just a group who've got some pretty unsavory tactics, and to raise money in a way that would be very difficult to do if you had to be a charity or some sort of regulated organisation.
The League Against Cruel Sports recently bullied a small auction website called Jumbbee, with its followers menacing the site's owners until they stopped allowing legal hunt organisations to use it. The animal rights charity brags that masses of tweets and 2,600 emails were sent to Jumbbee, a small company that mainly helps charities and schools.
They're pressuring and bullying small organisations who are trying to do something a bit entrepreneurial because they fundamentally disagree with them. I don't have a problem with them disagreeing with them or running their campaigns. That's fine. They're a charity, and the charity regulator, as we've discussed several times before, is incredibly toothless. They don't really do very much.
Some companies in the financial sector have a reputation for being helpful to field sports businesses.
We rang Basque Trade, asked if they could help us out with who to work with. They suggested go and see Barclays. So we rang them up, made an appointment. First thing I mentioned was we were in the gun trade, and they said that's fine, we'll go through the questionnaire. An hour into it, she decided to ring her boss and said, the guns were involved. Cancelled straight away, not allowed an account, not allowed anything, goodbye. And we've done that 2 more times with Barclays, but a lot of people are mentioning Barclays and they've had Barclays accounts for 20 years. I think it's just different branch managers who are making up their own guidelines, rules, whatever.
It's not just gun shops and shooting ranges that have had problems. We've had a few too.
When we set about selling shares in Fieldsports Channel plc, which is a complicated process. You just don't go out and say, hi, would you want to buy some shares? You've got to get various kinds of regulation. And one of the easy ways to do it is to go through one of the crowdfunding networks. And there are 2 big ones in the UK. There's Crowdcube, based in Exeter, and there's Seeders, based in London. So we signed up for Crowdcube. The first thing they said was, don't try and do this yourself. Get a guide, get somebody to help you. And that cost a few £1,000. So we did that. And we went through the process with Crowdcube with the help of our guide. We spent the money. At the end of it, Crowdcube said no. Our guide told us that Crowdcube decided not to go with us because they said they're vegan and they don't support what Fieldsports Channel does. So we went to Seeders. But we did say, first of all, do you have any problem with shooting or hunting as a thing? And Seeders said, no. The guy I spoke to said, no, absolutely not. He said, 2 of our senior management team are keen shooters. Once again, we got through the process and they said no. And this time, the guy I was speaking to at Seeders said to me, look, the problem is we are pro-shooting, but we're terrified of animal rights extremists. They might come and burn down our house. So we can't look like we're supporting Fieldsports Channel plc just because of that.
If you are rejected, I would consider looking for a new merchant, talking with your bank, use a VPN. And also, for some companies, rather than calling yourself gun shop in the name of your company, you may want to change the name of your company to something far more anodyne, and you may have a trading name, but the relationship you'll have will be through your company name. And so that may afford you slightly better terms and conditions or treatment from some of these companies.